And camera or microphone would help being unmuted. What's up, guys? So we got a mock draft consensus forming between the mock draft bros. Seems like picks 2 and 16 for the Jets are down to really five collective players between the two picks, the betting odds, all that. Definitely at number two. We got some day three quarterbacks. The Jets are in attendance for Drew Allar and Carson Beck at the Penn State and Miami pro days, respectively. We got Dan Orlovsky saying Ty Simpson is QB1. It's that time of draft season. We had Chris Sims say Mekhi Lemon is not a top five receiver. Denzel Boston, I think, is his wide receiver one. Also not a top five receiver for Bucky Brooks. Man, it just seems like the gap between the combine and the drafts gets bigger and bigger every single year. Does it? Anybody else want to hear a Jet podcaster's opinion about Arvell Reese? Well, one more time, you got like 6 more weeks of it. So the Jets, like, look, I mean, I could start with Ty Simpson with Dan Orlovsky. I like Ty Simpson a lot. I think that if he escapes round one, I would be rooting for the Jets to take him at 33. Personally, I just think he's good enough to warrant the shot at that point in the draft. Is he QB1? No, I don't think so. I think you just go with the guy who's 6'5, 235, and is a multiple year starter. But Ty's pretty toolsy. Ty's got good traits. It just he's small and he's inexperienced. That's really what it comes down to. So definitely like a solid round two quarterback that'll probably end up going in round one because they get bumped up a half a round minimum. Quarterbacks, that's how it goes. But I think the Jets are setting themselves up to. I don't think they're going to take a quarterback in the first with one of their first four picks. I don't think so, and I think part of that is because I think Ty Simpson is not going to be there for their second round pick, so it won't be a part of the equation. And I don't think they're going to take Ty Simpson in round one. It's not saying he's a bum. I don't think that's what they're going to do. I think that they've set themselves up to try and win some games this year, try and improve, and then deferring that draft capital with the Quinnen trade to make a move for the quarterback next year. Not to say next year's class is going to be amazing. To me, it's not even about that. But they're supposed to have some decent options. It's just, is the guy worth it this year? That's the only part of the equation. Like, if you think Ty Simpson is that guy, then you take him. Who cares about next year? If you think he's not, then you don't, and you just see what next year brings. So next year doesn't really next year's class supposedly being amazing shouldn't really factor into it a ton. It's just, is the juice worth the squeeze with the guy this year? Should be the question they have to ask themselves. But they obviously did get some workouts in with Drew Aller. They were down there in Miami for the pro day. Obviously, Miami has Bain, Mesidor, and Keontae Scott and CJ Daniels and Mauanoa. So, Miami's going to have a good amount of players drafted. So it's not like they're just down there for Carson Beck. But I think we could start with Beck because we don't really talk about Beck a lot. Holy crap, man. Dude, that is crazy generous. My dad and I love to listen. I appreciate what you do. That's awesome, man. Thank you. Wow. It's a lot of money, man. It's very, very generous. I don't even have like merch. I should be able to give you a t-shirt or something. I have like no brand. I just come on here and talk about the Jets for an hour and then just go to bed. But I really, really appreciate that, man. What was I talking about? Oh yeah. The Carson Beck. So Carson Beck, I think that if you're looking for a guy who could be the shook of this year, I think that Garrett Nussmeier and Carson Beck are those two players you could look at who are going to be taking maybe mid rounds to day three, who are probably never going to be like long-term starters or the guy just because of their traits. But a guy like Beck, who's played so much damn football, like Carson Beck graduated high school a year after Trevor Lawrence. I mean, he was on the Georgia team in 2020, right? So Carson Beck, a guy who's played 55 college games. He's completed almost 1,000 passes in college. Where if you're going to take I don't know, whatever, for maybe like a fifth round pick, whatever Beck is going to be, I think the reason why I like that kind of swing, I like the Beck swing or the Aller swing for different reasons on day 3. Because Beck could theoretically, like, he could play his rookie year and look playable, like, look like a backup. But with Beck, he'll probably always be a backup because why did he kick around college forever and not declare for the draft after 2023 or 2024? I know he had some injuries in there in 2022, is because he never got like a first or second round grade, right? He's just doesn't have a super live arm. He's not very athletic. He's got NFL backup traits. Um, but again, like he could become a QB2 pretty early in his rookie contract to where now you're like, okay, instead of signing whatever Carson Wentz or Tyrod Taylor for, 5-6 million bucks, you have a fifth round pick just doing that. So you're kind of getting some sort of return on investment for the draft pick. Then with Aller, it's a little bit of the opposite where he probably shouldn't see the field year one, really, but he does have really good traits. So you're kind of swinging for the fences with Aller. Or you think he could be like a poor man's Josh Allen, which is still like a top 10 quarterback with Aller. Maybe it's gone too far with Aller because he was being discussed, and maybe it was foolish discussion, but he was being discussed as potentially, hey, if he declares last year, is he like a second round pick, maybe late first round pick? Does Sean McVay take him at the end of round 1 and stash him for a couple of years? He did throw like 50 touchdowns to 10 picks. Actually, he threw 53 touchdowns to 10 picks his first 3 seasons combined. 67% completions that third year. This past year was definitely a bit more shaky. The stats kind of dropped across the board the first 6 weeks. Then he has the ankle injury, has to have surgery, ends his year. And now he's like, not a first and probably not a second round quarterback. But with Aller, like, okay, maybe he's Drew Lock. Like, that's probably the outcome for him. Like, he's Drew Lock. He maybe kicks around the league a bit, starts 40 games. Okay. But you're taking like also baked into it. Maybe there's like a 2 or 3% chance he could pop and be um, that steal. All right. I'm fine if they take one of those guys. Like to me, with Beck, uh, I guess I don't see how Garrett Nussmeier is seen in such a better light than Beck. Like to me, it's this very similar kind of mold of player. Like Garrett Nussmeier, I think, well, he's younger and he has a little bit more juice on his arm. Um, but it's kind of the same idea. Like you're getting like kind of a Gardner Minshew kind of player. I remember Gardner Minshew came in. It's like, oh, this guy can play like right away. But then that's who he was, a backup. I think that's the idea with Beck. And to be honest, it'd be kind of nice to have like a young quarterback on the roster. Is that how you should spend your draft picks as a GM? No, but as a fan, it'd be just some sort of hope. Like if I don't know, if they took a fourth round pick on Drew Aller, do I think he's good? Not really. His ball placement is erratic. He's not even a great. I think his athleticism is overrated in terms of like, yeah, once he gets moving, he's got long strides. He's a gazelle. He can chew up some grass, but in terms of like the twitchiness that the quarterbacks with really good escapability have, he doesn't. But if they take Drew Aller, I'll be in the preseason comes around. I'm like, oh, I want to watch. I'm going to make sure I watch this preseason game. Like, I want to see Drew Aller, right? That's part of it as a fan. But yeah, I really think they're setting themselves up to attack the 2027 class. And I do like Ty Simpson. If they took Ty Simpson at 16, I would understand it. To be honest, I know that's a very hot. Ty Simpson is a hot button issue. And Ty Simpson has fans in the Jets. I don't know if it's Alabama fans who stop by, but Ty Simpson has shooters, man. Ty Simpson has people who will go to bat for him. Tank for Ty, obviously, outdone by none. I like Ty. I really just wish that I knew who the real Ty Simpson was. It's hard when you're that bad for a a few games, but a few games become such a big sample size of your career when you're only a 1 year starter. I really wish we had a bigger sample size of Ty Simpson because there's a lot to work with. I think he is how other people talk about Ty Simpson, I feel like is what I'm watching with Nussmeier, where it's like, oh, game manager traits. And I get it, they're both small, but to me, Ty Simpson has honestly his combination of arm talent and athleticism is I think it's right there with Mendoza. Maybe I think Ty Simpson is maybe a little bit more has just better overall traits. Is he QB1? No, it's because Mendoza was a 3 year starter who's 6'5" and 240 and a national championship and a Heisman Trophy winner, right? So I'm not saying he's QB1, but he's got good tools. He's got good tools. Like that would not be the limiting factor in Ty Simpson becoming a starting quarterback. It would be it's like some of the post snap decision making that kind of got shaky down the stretch. And I know he was playing a little bit underweight, but there was that play in the was it the national championship game? I think it was the game before where Mendoza gets smoked and his little brother is warming up, and you're like, oh man, is this it? Is this like the season is over? And then he's got the helmet back on. He's back out there 5 seconds later. And it's like, if that's Ty Simpson, is he coming back in that game? Right. And that's just the nature. There's a reason why most quarterbacks, are at least 200 and 20 whatever pounds. Supposedly Ty Simpson is heavier now, but yeah, I like Ty. I mean, Ty at 33 to me, I would unless some other crazy player fell, um, I'd be hoping they called his name if he fell out of round one. Again, Ian, I really appreciate it, man. Thank you, dude. Watching with your dad, that's awesome. Shout out to Grandpa BJF. Sometimes my grandfather does watch the channel, but he puts it on the TV. That's a very elderly person thing to do. Like he watches YouTube videos on his smart TV. It's a power move. Turning 98 in May. Still going strong. Imagine being born in the Great Depression and now you have an iPhone. It's crazy. Another super chat from Droopy Crows. Dude, I'm telling you, it's Bane. Glenn is going to see himself in him. Guy with a physical defect who efforts through it. They're the same guy. Yeah, I mean, Bane is definitely he is a Moneyball player, right? Where they were listing all the misfit islands of misfit toys and players they could get because they have all these deficiencies. Yeah, Ruben Bane, short arms. The thing you gotta remember with all these players, like, because I know it's the number 2 overall pick, so you kind of get nitpicky, and but it's reasonable to be nitpicky because it's the first non-quarterback off the board. I mean, really, because quarterbacks are just the positional value is so elevated, you should be getting the best player in the draft. Like that should be the expectation. So we're going through it and little things. It's like, yeah, Ruben Bain having 31-inch arms, like it is part of the conversation. David Bailey just being not crazy old, but 23 to whatever 2.5 years older than Arvell Reese, like that is part of the conversation. Arvell Reese being used as a QB spy a third of his only season as a starter. Like, how does that, like, all those things do matter. But at the end of the day, whoever the Jets get, because it's almost assuredly going to be what? I mean, probably Reese. But if it's not Reese, Bailey, Styles, Bain, I think betting odds. And then after that, it's like it goes to plus 2,000 for Jeremiah Love, who I think is fifth in betting odds. And even Bain is like plus 1,700. Right. So it's Reese and then Bailey kind of in the mix. And then the betting odds see it as a massive gap. But one of those 4 players, and any of those 4 players, even if you don't like him at 2 or I don't love him at 2, a team like the Bengals their fan base would be jumping for joy if one of those guys was there. Even like the Ravens, I think is kind of a floor for a lot of these players. Like I think 14 is like a floor, a firm floor for Styles or Bain. Um, so the Ravens, a good organization, is going to sprint the card to the podium, and their fans are going to be elated to spend a top 15 pick on one of these guys that we don't, we're saying, "Oh, I don't like them." So some perspective, and you can like more than one guy. I know it's part of the fun. You kind of form your teams, alliances. It's part of the fun. It's all, but the Bowers was the height of that. But even look at back at some of the debates we've had over players. It's like, yeah, Bowers is awesome. Olu is awesome. Membu is awesome. Warren McMillan is awesome. JSN is awesome. Will McDonald, it's not on him, man. He didn't draft himself. That's kind of a bummer because Will McDonald was seen as a second round player. And if he was taken in the second round, like he would have been a good pick in the second round. So unfortunate there. But besides that one, or Garrett Wilson, Drake London, like, yeah, I'd rather have Garrett. I mean, I'm sure Falcons fans would rather keep London, but they're both great. That's not been the issue with the Jets. So they're going to get a good player. I want to see if we can finally get a starter in the fourth round. That's what I want to see. But yeah, I think they're going to take a quarterback on day 3. I don't think they're going to come away with Ty Simpson. I'd be okay if they did. I don't think they're going to. And I don't know who the backup quarterback is going to be. It's really like Cooper Rush or Tyrod back, maybe. And there was a report that the Eagles' asking price for Tanner McKee was a second round pick. Brian Costello reported that the Jets reached out to them. And then there was a couple outlets that reported that their asking price was a second round pick, which is insane. Let me tell you what's going to happen though. I'll give you the translation there, because they traded for Andy Dalton and Tanner McKee is in the last year of his contract. Their asking price will come down after the draft. That's their asking price right now. After the draft settles and teams have their QB room set, and whoever didn't come away with a QB that was maybe hoping to, I bet you McKee is moved, and I bet you it's not for a second round pick. Because why else would you trade for Andy Dalton? You're trading for Andy Dalton to be your QB3, and then you're going to let Tanner McKee walk next year and get nothing for him. Why wouldn't they just extend him and not have Andy Dalton? That doesn't smell right. I think McKee is moved, but if you're the Jets, like, no shot would I give up anything more than a 5th rounder for Tanner McKee. Now, there seems to be a mock draft consensus forming. I'm with you on Bain, though, brother. Yeah, he is just crazy powerful, and he's very, you always hear people say the phrase functionally athletic. Like, he's functionally athletic. And you're like, what does that mean? And you watch Ruben Bain and you're like, oh, I get it. Like, he's functionally like, he wouldn't run a crazy fast 40, but he's functionally athletic. But I think they're going to go with Reese because I just think they are going to see the ceiling. I really do think if Reese wasn't in this draft, I think it would be Bain over Bailey and over Styles for them. Just the way that they built this front, I just don't think they would I think they would lean into somebody who is a good run defender, and that includes Reese. Like, to me, Reese is one of the things that makes him have a decent floor is that he is, I think, the most versatile run defender in the class. He can defend the run from any alignment. He can defend the run in space. He can make tackles. He can set a movable edge. He can run sideline to sideline and chase down jet sweeps and screens. He can just absolutely detonate like pulling linemen and displace them, as great stopping power. He's a great block shedder. So everything pertaining to run defense, besides Reese also having kind of shorter arms, if you're viewing him as an edge, besides that, like, and I know he's light, but I really don't. He's just so strong and so young. I don't really care that he's a little bit lighter. So I think that's why they would go Reese over Bailey, and I think Bane too. Like if you're leaning it, like I know everyone's like they're 3-4, they're 3-4, they're 3-4. It's like okay, I know Carl Dunbar was the 3-4 guy, but look at who they signed. Like Kingsley is a 4-3 end. Osai is a 4-3 end. Um, who else did they bring in? David Onyemata is like a four it's a 4-3 defensive tackle coming over from Atlanta. Savondre Sweat. Probably more of a prototypical 3-4 nose, Sweat. I think he has enough juice where he could play in a 4-3, but he's more of your uh a 4-3 nose or 3-4 nose rather. Demario Davis has obviously played in both throughout his career. Um, but yeah, both of the edge players they signed, it's like, well, you couldn't take Bane because where does he play in a 4-3? It's like, well, dude, where does Kingsley play? Kingsley's a 4-3 end. Osai is coming over from Cincinnati where he was a 4-3 end his entire career. So yeah, Bane could do that. But you know, we'll see how it goes. I'll keep an open mind. I really do think that if they do not take Reese, that they could take Bane. But I think that again, do they want to be the team that doesn't take Reese and the ceiling does hit and he's amazing? Because if you could tell me that their development works out perfectly and it all goes according to plan, like who would be the better player? I would say Reese because he's just so much more athletic, but I think they have a little bit more proof of concept with guys like Bane and even Bailey, who I think is maybe fallen out of favor too much with Jet fans because like dude, David Bailey is still I mean, the guy produced in an absurd way at an elite skill set, a rush in the passer. And he doesn't have to be a great run defender. He just has to be an average run defender to keep him on the field enough to allow that pass rush ceiling to hit. Now, for the Jets, I do wonder like, it just depends on how big of a role they have for McDonald because if they just see McDonald as not even a base starter, then it doesn't matter. Then you can just take Bailey. But if they view as like, oh, McDonald's going to be out there 60% of the time, I think the combination of McDonald and Bailey on the field together a lot is not. It could lead to some problems against the run, but Bailey's a beast, man. Again, him like he's probably going to go in the top 10. He's got the production, crazy speed. But yeah, I agree with you with Bane. So let's throw this Todd McShay mock draft on here because you know how these go through cycles, right? Where you start to see the same names pop up over and over again. And right now, and by the way, look how far web design has come. Not even remember when these first came out. Oh my gosh, it was like matrix code in like Notepad reading it. But even like the past 3 or 4 years, like I was gonna make a mini Jets draft guy, but I just realized from an aesthetic perspective, it just wasn't gonna look like this. So I'm like, I just can't. I'm not gonna put out trash. This is nice though. These have become really clean. So he's got Reese at 2, obviously, and then he took a receiver. Did he take? I think he took. Yeah, I forgot if he took Lemon or Omar Cooper Jr. So really, I think what the Jets are looking at is Reese or maybe Reese at 2, most likely, maybe Bailey or Bane. 3-player conversation to me. I really don't think they're taking an off-ball linebacker at number 2. I know that's a very lazy way to discuss the draft. There's positions. I just don't think this is what they're going to do. Style is very great. If they did it, I keep an open mind, but I think those are the 3 you're looking at. Then at 16, I think that unless there's a crazy run on receivers where 4 of them go in the top 15, I think they're going to take a receiver. And I think that either Omar Cooper Jr. or Jordan Tyson are probably going to end up being Jets. I think Lemon does end up going, particularly with the Dolphins trading Waddle, and now it's like they have the worst wide receiver room in the NFL. I think Lemon just makes so much more sense there. Tate going in the top 10. So I think it's for the Jets, it's going to come down to, is Omar Cooper Jr. close enough? Well, in this one, Tyson is off the board. But in this scenario where they have to choose between Tyson and Cooper, is Omar Cooper Jr. close enough in talent to Tyson to take him over him? I don't know. I do think Tyson is significantly more, and I love Omar Cooper Jr. Um, I think Tyson is significantly more talented than him, and just Tyson moves like one of those ones, man. Tyson moves like how they move. He looks like how they look, right? He just looks the part when he moves. Omar Cooper Jr. is a little bit different. He is kind of built like Corley, which is terrifying, right? Especially when he had 23% of his receptions were screen passes. But obviously he's much more well-rounded player. But the yak is a huge part of his game, where Tyson is just more of a sudden separator, wins in a more traditional way. So Tyson is going to be, I don't know, man. I think the Jets might go ahead and take that risk if he's there at 16. But how do you quantify it? Like, are their doctors going to look at his hamstrings? Like, okay, what grade is your hamstring tear? How likely is this to be a recurring thing? Is it the same leg as the other hamstring? Like, their doctors are going to parse through all that. So, how do you weigh that as fans with the information that we have? I don't really know. But in this case, he was off the board. And if he is off the board, let's see who else went. So, obviously, all the guys we know. So, the top three edge rushers gone, top three receivers gone, Styles gone. Mansour Delane, who apparently ran in the 4.3s, which he's not even supposed to be a great athlete, so he's got to be a top 10 pick for sure. Downs gone. Okay. So yeah, in this case, yeah, I'd be fine to honestly, in this case, I would either want to take Omar Cooper Jr. or Dylan Thieneman would be my pick here. And they both feel like guys that should probably be taken at like 27, right? But that's kind of the nature of the draft and a lot of draft classes. Like, there's just kind of a tier of players, and then it drops off to where maybe picks 14 to like 35 are kind of in a similar bucket. Um, Definitely willing to answer the phone here for sure. But yeah, I'd be cool with Omar Cooper Jr. Let's see what Todd McShay has to say about him. Can we go to the? Oh, this is cool. We got a little spider chart. His competitiveness is his best trait. Oh no. Oh, come on. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear how he's a scrappy gym rat. I want to hear that he separates. Okay. Indiana's leading receiver. Average size, versatile with inside outside flexibility. Excels at yak. Yeah, we knew that. Good but not great speed. Yeah. He was like a mid 4.4s guy. He does have really good body control and ball skills, though. He has some crazy contorted, like just insane catches. He had a catch where like he flipped over a guy and landed on his head and still got like, but his feet like landed over the top of his head and like 1 foot hit the turf to make the catch. Crazy. Biggest concern is lack of acceleration out of breaks. Okay. Highly effective route runner. Forced 27 missed tackles. That's a lot. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he reminds me a lot of Luther Burden last year, where it's a body type and skill set of receiver that you feel like you'd rather draft in the second round, to be honest. But I look at what I think you look at after they traded DJ Moore, like Luther Burden could have 900 yards, you know, next year. And I think that's what Cooper Jr. could be. I think he could be a really high end number two. If that's a skill set that the Jets feel like is worth the 16th pick, I would say, man, those guys get like 23 million a year. Look how much money Wandale Robinson and Romeo Dobbs got, man. Like they're get like wide receiver twos get what elite guards and elite like defensive tackles make. It's crazy. So that's what it seems to be right now, man. It seems to be, and shout out to Todd McShay. It's a very cool draft guide he's got. Well, shout out to whoever does his design. But McShay, yeah, I wish McShay just wasn't like so. The problem is obviously he was friends with Joe Douglas, so like he's anti Jets, but he's very obviously anti Jets. But he's got decent draft content. But yeah, man, I think you're looking at Reese, Bailey, maybe Bain at 2, and then the receiver at 16, like one of those 3. And honestly, you could put any combination of the 3, and I'd be down with it. Whatever. Reese, Lemon, Bailey, Tyson, Bain, Cooper Jr., mix and match, whatever. I'd be fine with it. And if they don't get if it's not a receiver at 16, the next guy I would want is Vega because I'm the most probably with Vega, he's the guy who could be there at 16 that I'm just the most confident is going to be really good. And I don't want a guard in round 1. Like I really, all things being equal, I do not want that to be the pick. But you got to get you got to get a really good player, man. And I think Vega is just the most likely to be like he might be the guy who's there is like, yeah, this is the most sure thing we could find. Yeah, so I'm saying like grenade if the top 3 wide receivers are gone, I'm taking Vega and moving Tip back to center. So I would take Vega and keep Tibman at guard and have Parham and Myers compete for center. I know Parham has played a little bit of center. Parham on the bench does seem like overkill on your offensive line, although depth is never a bad thing, but I think he did get a good chunk of money. They signed him to be a starter, right? He's been a starter his whole career. Snaps played at center. Come on, PFF. What? Maybe this will tell me. Oh, PFF's entire website is just not working right now. That's cool. I could ask AI, but it will give me an incorrect answer. AI still sucks. AI has a long way to go before it takes over and puts us in the Matrix pods. Hasn't he played center? Whatever. If he has played center, that'd be my plan. I like Tibman at guard. Tibman, I thought of his best year at guard, and Tibman still has very poor snap accuracy. Why aren't I high on Boston? I don't know if I'm low on him necessarily. So I guess my wide receiver preferences would be Tate, Lemon, Tyson, Cooper Jr. So I kind of view Cooper Jr., Boston, and Concepcion all in the same bucket. Like that's just what flavor you want. Boston is a player I'd love. I'd love if he was there at 33. If he was there at 16, like I'd understand that, but I think I would want. I just get a little nervous with. He's very good at contested catches. So maybe he could be like a T. Higgins kind of player, but I get nervous when that's the primary way that you're winning. because I think separation and Yak are kind of the kings for what translates to the NFL. But Boston's nice. A multi-million dollar industry based on guessing the order of players, and there's no other sport where their draft process is even close to as analyzed and commercialized. Why not trade back a few picks, get more draft picks, and take Bain or Bailey? I would do that. Like, I don't know who's coming up and for who, and for the Jets, they just might really feel that Reese is a notch above the rest of them, or they don't want to get super cute. Because I think if you look at last year, like we always do, it's like always trade back, trade back, trade back. Um, it's like, all right, I remember doing one where we traded back. I think we traded back to 7. It was a common like trade back option in mock drafts last year. We traded back from 7 to 11 with the Niners, and the price by the chart was a third round pick. It was always like trade back to 11 and take Colston Loveland. And it's like Colston, maybe that would have been fine because Colston Loveland is, I think, going to be an absolute beast. You get an extra third round pick. But like Membu is, I think, going to age to be like really, really good. Like a player that you probably didn't want to trade back and like mess around too much. Probably just take him. Because like, oh, you just trade back and you get some other player, but like I don't know. I'm trying to think of who went there, who went in that range. Like I don't know. You trade back and take Jalen Walker. It's like I don't know. I think Armand Membu is a significantly more valuable piece to a team than Jalen Walker. So if they view it that Reese is that guy and they have quite a bit of picks already. I think if the Jets do trade back, though, what I would want them to do is do pick swaps. Because at a certain point, like, are you gonna have 11 rookies make your team after you just signed all these veterans and you have your draft class from last year returning? And you have a bunch of picks next year. So I think I want them to kind of say, hey, we're gonna trade back, um and the price is gonna be you're gonna give us a third rounder and we're gonna give you a fifth, right? Kind of start working both ways. You come back, but then you also are kind of coming up too, because yeah, like you're if you have 4 picks in the top 45, like your seventh rounder is probably not going to make the team. It's going to be hard. Oh, guard and center around 4 and 5. Yeah, I would agree with that. I liked it a lot. Yeah, I know things change exponentially. The robots will be among us soon. It really is because of how much variance there is. Well, what's amazing about being an armchair GM is that because these are like highly paid executives, right? Where it's like it's a highly paid job that you're an expert in, where a lot of other highly paid jobs, or even not even highly paid, but just like a degree of expertise is required. Like any one of us at random could make the Jets draft picks this year, and it could be fine. We could cook up one. Now, could we sustain it over 10 years like Howie Roseman? Probably not. But we could cook up one good mock draft. You could do it. There's probably years where you think back to like the guys you wanted a certain year, and you're like, "Damn, I absolutely cooked better than the team." Especially if you're a Jet fan, it's probably more more likely. But like, it's you could crush it. Whereas if you had to be like the coach of the Jets, they would probably go 0-17. If you had to like fly a plane, it would crash. If you had to do brain surgery, the person would not make it. But you could crush one draft. You just fire up PFF's mock simulator, some YouTube highlights, like a couple of your buddies as your war room. You could crush one draft. That's the beauty of it. It's the beauty of it. So people get it's like the area of expertise that people will like. It's so funny when people defend it because especially on Twitter, where the two biggest things I see on Twitter is sports, because that's what I interact with, and politics because that's what Twitter forces upon you. And it's like you have people who go on there and they'll be like experts in geopolitics and all of human history. They'll know everything about every country and every law and every act that's ever been passed. And they have massive expertise over it, better than the people who are writing it and legislating it and all of that. But if you're like, yeah, I don't know, man. I think like Ruben Bain might get more sacks than David Bailey. Like, how could you say that? How could you pretend to know? What are you, an expert? It's like, all right, man. Go back to your 10-part lecture series on the entire global political climate that you're firing off of Twitter on your lunch break at like Home Depot. But if someone says that like Ruben Bain might be marginally better than David Bailey, it's like crazy affront to the experts of drafting. It's crazy, man. Shout out to armchair GMs. And shout out to Home Depot. Home Depot actually treats their employees pretty well. There was those Home Depot millionaires. Remember that? The people that they got like stock options when the Home Depot first opened and then they became rich. The most super chat from Zach Van Buren. Thanks, man. The most recent stick and pick draft: Arvo Reese, Makai Lemon, Chase Pasantis, Jacob Rodriguez, Eli Stowers, Taylor Green. Okay. All right, let me digest this one at a time. Reese, yes. Sold. Lemon, yep. Basantis Rodriguez, I'm down. Sure. I'm definitely down with Rodriguez at 44. Basantis, I could take her or leave it at 33. Eli Stowers, yeah, that's what. Yeah, I think if you could, especially if you could, if we didn't do the Hassan Reddick trade, I would love a, that could be a sweet spot for a tight end, or that the tight end from Georgia, Oscar Delp, right? He's crazy athletic. And then you're taking Taylor Green, Fuller Shore. I don't know who these last people are. Xavier Nwangpa. I don't know if you're doing the. Okay, he's a real person. I don't know if you're doing the prank where Aaron Wilson was doing a live stream and somebody. Oh man, somebody asked if Dixon Myaz was going to be a good fit for a certain team. Obviously, Dixon Myaz is not a real football player. And he was like, "Yeah, I think Dixon Myaz could be a good fit for them." Like just to answer it off the cuff. So I'm not trying to get Dixon Myaz for sure. Okay, what position does he play? Safety. Okay, day 3 safety. Cool. Kind of, is he more of a free safety? That's kind of what we could use. We definitely could use some with a free safety skill set on this roster. And then Riley Malman. What does he do? He looks like a linebacker. Oh, an offensive tackle. Offensive tackle depth? Yeah. Okay. Your mock draft is stamped and approved. I like it. Yeah, those 2 I don't care how old you are. I was dying when I watched him say that because it was clearly like an 11-year-old that got him. And I've heard obviously there's like a whole bunch of different versions of that joke, but I never heard specifically "Dicks in my ass." And, I was like, that's a good one in the tool belt. I wish, I would have appreciated that one in middle school. What's up, Wild Wave? Me and Wild Wave, there's always that me and Wild Wave disagree on every prospect, but it's cool. Reese having similar qualities to Luke Kuechly. Again, like my guy Bill crashed out in the comments when I compared Reese to Andrew Van Ginkel. I'm like, dog, like Andrew Van Ginkel became an all pro under Brian Flores. I don't know, man. Like we always do these comps, and it's like every draft has a million all-time greats. Kuechly, no, dude. Like Arvo Reese has I in coverage, there's a long way to go to Kuechly, but in terms of everything Arvo Reese does moving downhill is great. Like his instincts, his play recognition, his physicality, his play strength, his tackling, I think his pass rush, like as a blitzer, everything he does moving downhill as a linebacker prospect is really as good as you can ask. Um, I don't know if this is a hot take. If you ask me to pick Reese or Styles, just both as off-ball linebacker prospects, I still might pick Reese. I still might pick Reese just because of how strong he is and the leverage he plays with and how he defends the run. Now, could Reese figure out how to be a good coverage linebacker by like his 3rd year? Yeah. But Kuechly was like immediately, he was the defensive player of the year in his 2nd year in the league. Um, I just that's a high bar, but I mean Kuechly honestly, I think of linebackers I've seen, which I'll just kind of call it like since 2000 and beyond, right? Because, whatever, when I was 3 years old doesn't count. But it's since I was like old enough to at least know what was going on. I think probably Ray Lewis and then Kuechly are probably the 2 best linebackers, like Patrick Willis in there. But I think Kuechly is he really his at his position, it was not that far off from like an Aaron Donald level. Just you are that guy at your position every year you play and then you retire. Mm, super. Oh, I got to that one. Cool. Oh my god. Yeah. There's the best one of those jokes I know, but it's really crass. It says it's the innuendo part of it is a word I'm not gonna say, but there's just one that is a tier above the rest. And it starts with the guy's first name is Mike. I will leave it at that. Bobby Wagner is a great linebacker of this era. Yeah, I think him and Demario Davis are like the longevity kings. I want like if Demario Davis played on teams that like if he was part of the Legion of Boom, and he was on teams that won a Super Bowl and made it to a Super Bowl, like he would probably be thought of as maybe even as good, maybe not better than Bobby Wagner. Jets love drafting Senior Bowl players. So were a lot of the guys they took last year Senior Bowl players? Because I know that was the thing with Douglas and Saleh, right? You sort of get a sense of like guys who are team captain and all this stuff. Like you kind of got a sense of a Joe Douglas player. Obviously, Joe Douglas was a Raz score kind of day. Once day three came, Joe Douglas was just going to take athletes, which okay, whatever. I kind of have the opposite view on day three. Well, I kind of it's in the middle to me. Rounds 6 and 7, you could just take your Raz score gods and hope that they maybe turn out. You could take your Zach Kuntz. Like you taking Zach Kuntz in the 7th round, it's like they knew he was terrible at football. Who cares? Like this is the most athletic tight end ever. He's 6'7". Maybe we could teach him to play football. It's fine. It's a 7th round. It's more like Jabari doing that with Jabari Zuniga in the 3rd round. That was the problem. But I think like in the 4th and 5th round, I like to look for players who were actually good football players in college, but maybe they're being overlooked for, they're not athletic or they're small or they had an injury. They maybe could be better now, or they went to a small school, or you don't know what position they're going to play, or oh, they play nickel corner and it's not a premium. Like that's how I kind of look at the opposite way. I want to know. I want all the money ball players. Like I want guys who it's like, oh, this guy was good. Like who was like Will Lampkin or whatever the center who was like 5'11". It's like yeah, he's really really good, but can you be an offensive lineman when you're 5'11"? I'd rather take him. I'd rather take him than take some guy who was not good at football, but ran, for 240 or whatever. I don't know if that guy made it. I think the Rams took him. I don't even know if he made their team, but he was on there in the preseason. I remember he was out there. Do you think Arvell Reese's versatility and upside is too much for our Jets to pass on? I think so. His ability to play the run, play coverage, and light up anywhere on the field makes him the right pick for us too. I think that's a pretty good summation of why he'll be the pick. Carl Dunbar, I've had people ask me, well, we are the Jets, and Reese seems to be a little bit more of a need more refinement than maybe obviously they're all rookies, so they need coaching and all that, but maybe more refinement than some other players who their role is just more clear. But you know, I know it's the Jets, but it's not like Woody Johnson is coaching him or Jaime Athal or whatever his name is, right? Carl Dunbar is a good coach. Carl Dunbar has been around a ton of different defensive line, outside linebacker kind of players. So I think that would be fine. And Reese is a player they definitely have to get him moving around a bit. I know that when the Giants with Abdul Carter last year, they had him just at edge for the first half of the season and he didn't have a sack. And then they just started letting him do what he did at Penn State, which is kind of just roam around and they'd send him from different angles and get him matched up on interior offensive linemen. And then the back half of the season, Abdul Carter has 40 pressures and 4 sacks in the back half of the season. So that's kind of what I think you want to do with Reese. And I'm not saying he can't be great right away, but I definitely would say prepare yourself mentally for, oh, David Bailey has 6 sacks and Reese has 1.5. Like he's 20 years old. He has, only a few hundred defensive line snaps in college. So obviously, again, I'm not going to be gaslighting. Like, yes, he's making an impact and playing a lot and starting. Of course, he's a number 2 pick, but um, you're going to have to wait. You're going to have to wait until for the verdict on him, maybe a little bit longer, right? With Bane too. Like, if Bane is getting just locked up by tackles his rookie year, I'll be like, I'm nervous because Baines was a 3-year starter. Bane had who's coached by Jason Taylor and has really refined his game, like Bane and Bailey, that's got to play to like pretty quickly. Like their limitations will either hold them back or not, probably right away. But with Reese, I just think it's going to be a little bit longer of an arc, um, where maybe by his, that rookie year may not be like the best, but then by year three, he could be, the best one. If you draft Reese, do you think we trade Sherwood? I think regardless of who you're going to draft, if you could get somebody to take Sherwood's money, I would do it. Now, I think what the Jets have set themselves up with though is really right now their front seven, they have viable names at every spot. They don't have a superstar, they're not loaded, but it's like Jamie and Sherwood. Okay, he was like a plus starter one year. He was a bad starter last year. Is he a mid starter maybe, or maybe a below average starter? Let's call Jamie and Sherwood a below average starter. Demario Davis is a solid starter. And then Asai, between Asai, Kingsley, I actually, it's Enigbare, right? I've just been calling him Kingsley. I should. We actually have multiple Kingsleys. We have Kingsley Jonathan too, but yeah, Enigbare, Asai, and McDonald. Like those are three NFL edge players. None of them are great, but those are three NFL edge players that would get reps on good teams. Enigbare played 45% of the snaps with the Green Bay. Osai was like two-thirds of the snaps out there on Cincinnati. I know they had a pretty bad defense, and Hendricks was banged up, but he's a starter. McDonald is at worst a player. At worst, he's a guy who should be out there 40% of the time as more of a DPR. And then you have obviously Sweat, Anyamata, Briggs, Phillips. So they kind of set themselves up to where you could really let Reese fully hybrid around his rookie year. So that's what I kind of like about it. And I don't know. Because I do think that if you moved off Sherwood, they would want to there'd be another linebacker there that would play a lot. Because I don't think Reese is just going to play linebacker. But yeah, Sherwood, I don't know, man. Danny Dennis Sutton, yeah, Danny Dennis Sutton. There's a lot of the edge class has a lot of interesting players. I love Reese's teammate, Curry. He stuck out to me a ton when I was watching that team. And they have that other guy, Jackson, who was making all kinds of plays, who I think is coming back. That defense was ridiculous. But Curry, I think, is more of a mid-round kind of player who's another guy like Enigbare, who's kind of a dirty work, like 260 pounder. Mesidor. Yeah, I think if Mesidor was 22 years old, like he could be a top 15 pick. There were definitely games that I watched of Bane where Mesidor looked like the better player between the two. But with Mesidor, it's not. I don't necessarily. It's not that he's 20. People always conflate this every draft season, and it's like, dude, have we not moved past this? But it's like, oh well, you care that he's going to be 33. You're worried about a contract extension 8-9 years from now, and it's like that's not the only concern with drafting an older player. Like recently in February, I was down in central New York where I graduated high school. Go to a basketball game, right? They have a kid who's in 8th grade who's on the varsity team, and he's like their combo guard. He's like their sixth man. Kid's like 6'3" already, not really refined, but uh his family emigrated, I believe from Eritrea. I believe Eritrea or Somalia, and only been playing basketball for like a couple of years, right? 8th grade, makes the varsity team. And the starting point guard is a kid who's 18, who like plays multiple sports, who clearly is like working out, is been in the basketball programs, dad's assistant coach, all the shooting form is perfect. He's got all the gear with the bag with the all the different summer camps, travel ball things he goes to. It's like, okay. And right now, that kid, that 18-year-old is better. Okay. Who do you think has a better chance to be a better college basketball player? Of course, the kid who's in eighth grade, who's been playing ball for 3 years, who's already 80% as good as him and is like 12 years old. Like, of course, that kid is going to be better, right? That's the thing with age. Like, early breakout age is a sign that you are way more talented. It's not just that, oh, how are we going to extend you when you're 29 or whatever, right? Mesidor is a beast, though. Mesidor said he felt unsafe at West Virginia and then decided to transfer to Miami. Off the board. What is that? Soft. Yeah, I listen to Jet Talk too much. It's I do have a sickness, especially during draft season. There's times during the season when it's like, okay, do I need to how many recaps of like Jets Cowboys 30-point loss do I need to listen to? Like, yeah, just one. But during the draft season and the off season, I consume it all. And there will be times where like I'll be looking through my phone and I'm like, I don't have a recent video to watch, which is crazy. That means I watch so much because there's so much. That means I watch like it's way too much. I watch way too much Jets content or listen to it mostly. Like anytime I'm driving, it's the first thing I do. I'm like, let me listen to Will Parkinson whisper sweet nothings into my ear while I drive. Or Ian. Think about Ian. I need Ian to make longer form content. I need Ian to do solo podcasts. Next time, Ian, actually go. Everyone go to Ian's channel after this and bully him into making long form content. That's what the people want. Jerry Jerry Judy. I forgot about Jerry Judy. He had a tough year last year, but he's been a productive receiver. There's a metric for it used for wide receivers. It actually has a really good correlation with NFL success called Dominator Score. The younger you are as a wide receiver, with the high score, the better. Yeah, I think receiver is probably one of the ones. The receiver is a position that has a lot of numbers that correlate to success. Like, it's pretty easy to point out if a receiver is going to be good or not. But there's also they bust a lot. I don't know. Like Makai Lemon, the data is like Makai Lemon is going to be really good. Are my family Jet fans? Yes. Yep. Most Long Island origins. Jets, Mets, Islanders family. But none of them are really. Besides, none of them are really like this much into the Jets. Which, if you're watching this, you're probably the biggest Jet fan in your family, right? Like, that's probably a good benchmark. Oh, Knicks. Yeah, Knicks. I liked the Knicks and the Nets growing up. Then I had to pick. I picked the Knicks. But I loved those Nets teams with Kidd and Vince Carter and Richard Jefferson and Kenya Martin. Like those were such fun Nets teams. And then the Knicks, yeah, they've been good. I'm just still so bummed at that comeback against the Pacers, man. I know the Thunder probably would have beat them in the finals, but it's one of those things like the Jets losing to the Steelers in the AFC Championship. It's one of those ones like where, damn, dude, like what was it? It was like 14 points in like 2.5 minutes or something. Insane. Insane. Where you can only lose if you do multiple stupid things. Like that's the only way you can blow that kind of lead is if you do like five dumb things. And they did. That's awesome. Lemon is 5'10". Yeah, ideally you'd add someone bigger to who's my favorite New York rapper. Oh man. See, this is a setup. I like music, but if anyone's gonna ask like who are your top five bands or top five rappers, I wouldn't know enough about each genre that I would just, you know, it'd be a setup. Rap, so honestly, my favorite rapper is probably Lil Wayne. I'm not saying he's the best artistically or that his lyrics are like the most profound, but I just the punchline style rap that he does, I think is just really entertaining. And it was just like generationally, like that was he was very big when, I was like in high school or college, but Lil Wayne, uh I know he's not in New York. He's obviously from the Southeast, but in general, I would say Lil Wayne and then probably J. Cole would be probably my 2 favorite rappers. You go through phases. Kid Cudi phase, mandatory white dude, millennial college Kid Cudi phase happened. And then Eminem, also what happens is the problem with Eminem is if you're about my age, you had a friend who only listened to Eminem. I remember my buddy, like he was the first of our friend group to get a car in high school, and obviously it's like his car, so whatever his music, and it was just Eminem, and I'm like, I can't do Eminem anymore. But obviously he's a very good artist as well. I went to a concert of this is like pre-COVID, but there was a Blink 182 was doing Blink 182 was doing their 20th anniversary of their first album, and they just happened to do a concert with Lil Wayne, and that was the best concert. Blink 182 and Lil Wayne, best concert I ever been to by far. It was it was awesome. Anytime I've seen Lil Wayne live, he is, you go to concerts, like sometimes you could tell when guys are going through the motions, especially if they're past their prime and maybe it's a smaller venue than they used to do in their heyday. But anytime I've seen Lil Wayne live, like he is happy to be there. Like he is giving it his all. So I liked it about Lil Wayne. Anyway, Wade Wilson found out that I'm white. I Irish and Puerto Rican. So yeah, white. Right? I would say. Favorite UFC fighter? So I actually went to the same high school as John Jones and Chandler Jones and Arthur Jones. So John was way older than me, but Chandler was like a year ahead of me. Chandler Jones, obviously Patriots, defensive end. Um, I think he's not doing too well though. Unfortunately, I think he's got like maybe like CTE, sadly. But Chandler watching Chandler Jones as a high school tight end slash defensive end was absolutely hilarious. Um, I was on like the lower team, the junior varsity team. He was on the varsity team, so we had a couple of joint like practices where I don't know. Did I ever get run over by Chandler Jones in a practice? I don't think I did. That would be the only. It wouldn't be like I lit him up. It would be like did I get the honor of being truck sticked by Chandler Jones? I think I remember. I don't think I did, but yeah, he was there. He was obviously a great basketball player too. And then John Jones was. I remember he started wrestling and was a state championship like 18 months later. Just stupid. Um. So and then Arthur Jones obviously he passed away pretty young recently. He passed away this year, but he was a defensive tackle for the Ravens and the so crazy athletic family. Um, so yeah, but also John Jones, obviously, that random factoid aside, he was, I mean, probably the baddest like 205 ever. Him or St. Pierre. Um, Obviously, John had some stuff that kept him out of the octagon for a while, but I mean, if I had to pick a 205-pound human to just win a fight on a prime for prime, I think it'd be John Jones. It was pretty crazy. I remember even his first loss, it was a DQ. He got disqualified because he was doing the north to south elbow, and that was his first loss. So John Jones is crazy good. Yeah, Gronk is from right around here. Yeah, Gronk is was in Williamsville, New York. Am I going to join Jake Asman at ESPN? No, no, I got the day job. All right, all right. All right. Name another rapper who doesn't write their lyrics. I mean, they all have writers to some extent. I mean, every it's crazy even when you see songs of any genre that wins um a Grammy or whatever, they'll be like this song was written by and it'll say like 50 people. It'll be like some Taylor Swift song that had the same lyric. And it's like it took 50 people to to come up with this. So I don't know if any artist can truly claim that they like there's no one who wrote all of their own lyrics. So it's hard to hold that against anyone. I mean, obviously, yeah, like to some more than others, but I don't know. You're gonna pick up some ideas from other people, regardless of what they might claim. 50 Cent. Yeah, I mean, 50 Cent definitely is very unique. Um, he's got a couple of songs where within like a half a second the beat is right into club Wangsta, right? Do 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 do. That's a good one. Um, yeah, 50 Cent's cool. The thing about 50 Cent is that I don't think anybody would say he is like the best rapper, but nobody also dislikes him, it seems. Like you're not gonna be no one's like, oh my gosh, I hate 50 Cent, like he's a fraud. Like it's like everyone's just like, yeah, 50 Cent. He's pretty good. I liked his movie too. Oh, yeah, yeah. I hear you, Bonesy. Like, yeah, it's all in his head. What's that? Oh, I'm trying to think of that one 50 Cent. Oh, 21 Questions. It's a little bit different than his normal style, but I like that song. He says, "I love you like a fat kid loves cake." Or when when Lil Wayne said, "I got 10 bathrooms so I could shit all day." Like, nobody else, but it's funny. Super chat. Um, damn, man. Maz for Maz, $50, dude. That's very generous of you. It's a lot of money. Did you land a gig on TV somewhere? But that's what's cool about YouTube is like anyone could just fire it up. So nah, just Little Jets YouTube channel is cool. But I really appreciate it, man. That's very generous of you. I mean, in some ways, like it's pretty wild, especially because the Jets haven't been too good. But it's kind of like even a channel like Badlands, like how big they could be just for one team that hasn't been good. Like the Jets have a very active online, a crazy active online fan base because you run into other fan bases, but there's some fan bases like you just never even come across, like Titans fans. Like there's no way you could do Titans Badlands and have however many thousand paid members. There's no way. So Jet fans are crazy. 50 versus Ti. 50. I mean, I don't have anything against Ti, but you know what kind of so there's a couple different there's two different this last thing I'll say about music, and then I'll probably do a couple more comments about the Jets, and then geez, we gotta go to bed. There's two types of music they don't really make anymore that I miss. Number one, I do miss just the standard kind of emo that was like My Chemical Romance, Fall Out Boy. They don't really make that kind of stuff anymore. I know it may not be your thing, but it was, there's a nostalgia attached to it. There's that, and then there was also I guess, I guess you could call it R&B, but it was more of it's like remember Mario and like a little bit of Akon. I don't know what you'd call it, but there was that too. Though, yeah, they don't really do that anymore. What kind of music do they make anymore? I don't even know. I don't really listen to any music that was made after like 2015 for the most part. No, not R. Kelly. Well, I'm trying to think of like what would you call I it probably would come up as R&B, but it's and like Neo. I liked Neo a lot. That whatever that is, like Neo, Mario, whatever they do. Is that R&B? I don't know. What genre is Neo? R&B slash soul. Okay. So yeah, I'm just dumb and I don't know what R&B is. But that's different. But that's different than Keith Sweat, right? It's a little bit less on the on the nose than maybe your 90s R&B or your, R. Kelly obviously falls into that. Sean Kingston. Sean Kingston. Yeah. He had a couple nice ones. And then it was just like gone, right? Sean Kingston got like 2 summers and then he dipped. Yeah, Neo had aura. We didn't call it aura then, but Neo had aura. And then we realized that under like those cool hats he would wear, he was just bald. And it was like, all right, well, there is that. Oh, Gnarls Barkley, I really wasn't well, just that one song, the crazy that we did, dude, I couldn't. It was it was too long. Same thing with Bruno Mars. Bruno Mars is so talented. His Super Bowl halftime show was great. Like Bruno Mars is a rock star, man, but there was a stretch where you couldn't go anywhere without hearing his songs. It was just like, all right. It was like the same 6 of his songs. That one, Happy by Pharrell, like just too much. Heard it too many times. Um, what if you tra- and then Michael asked, what if you traded from 16 to like 22 to 25? Would you take Simpson there? I would be fine taking Ty Simpson in a slight trade back, to be honest. I would. I can't believe there's still 6 more weeks of draft talk. Feels like there hasn't been and will be no news. I know. It's like I think the only answer is to dig deeper into the prospects. That's the only way. It's the only way forward. We're gonna have to get to the 4th round because the 1st round, nobody wants to talk about pick 2 anymore. Now probably pick 16 by the end of this week. We'll be fully over that. We got to get to the 2nd round by the end of this month, and then really by April we got to dig into these like 4th and 5th round picks. The problem with that is there's so much variance. Like there could be a guy you talk about you want in the 4th round, and he goes like late 2, or he's like a UDFA. Whereas it's like pick 16. Like okay, Makai Lemon's gonna go between picks 8 and like picks 20. Right? It's more predictable. So I have to dig deeper. Because yeah, this year, I mean, we say it every year, but this year, I don't know why. I think obviously part of it was the Jets just being so bad, and they were bad in 2024, but there was a lot of dysfunction, like GM fired, coach fired, Rodgers, whatever. So there was a lot of like news kind of during the season, even though they were bad. But this year it was like, we watched like the first four games, and we were like, all right, so who are we gonna who are we gonna pick? Like it was already kind of a wrap. So I think that's what it was, is the off season. Like I remember people bringing up Arvell Reese around Thanksgiving, right? So it's been a long stretch, man. Appreciate it, man. Any surprise cuts? The only one who I think could be moved, and this would be a trade, would be Sherwood. Because actually, I do wonder, not that I would want it to happen, but if they did end up drafting a defensive tackle in like the 2nd round, in the same way he kind of got out of Minnesota, would Harrison Phillips maybe be moved? I wouldn't be looking to move him, but I'm just thinking of guys teams would want to trade for. Or if they do, let's say they take Colton Hood at 33. Do they look at Brandon Stevens as a guy who maybe could be moved, and you eat some of that money because you do have A.J. Thomas and you do have Nishan Wright? Maybe. But I'll leave it there. Appreciate you guys hanging out. If you wanted the thumbs up on the way out, that'd be cool. Yeah, let's get some sleep and go